Good evening, TDN listeners and friends. Welcome to another episode of This Week in Interview with your host, Anthony Drago. First of all, let me tell you how much I missed you. We had two Wednesdays in a row where we did not have This Week in Interview. To the previous Wednesday, I was traveling and it was Thanksgiving, so we also decided that we would let you give thanks in peace. And then the following week, I had no voice. I had no voice. And so it's a pleasure to be back. I really appreciate the fact that I get to spend this last Wednesday with you before our holiday break. Because after we do this weekend interview tonight, we will return in January. So I hope that everybody is having a really great time. I hope you did not miss me too much, but I hope you miss me a lot, because I think I like to think that this weekend interview occupies that space, because you make the time every week, week after week, to come back and to share that time with us on this week in interview. And so I, although I miss the week, I really realize how much I really miss doing this week in interview and spending the time in your presence. But we're here tonight, and as I said, this is the last show for 2024. We will come back in January. We will look to make some changes and some, not too much change, because I like what we do, where we're not just for entertainment, but we inform and we bring you ideas. We provoke your thinking, and get you to think about what actions that you can take, because we would like to be action oriented. I hope you've been enjoying the other programs that go on TDN Media. Uh, we have the Youth Effect with Kathy Robinson every Monday, every Monday night, the Youth Effect with Kathy Robinson at 8:30. And on Saturdays, we have Dissect, and we have a few other programs that I hope you really like. Um, we have Melting Pot on a Tuesday evening, and on also on Saturdays. So on in the new year, we're going to organize ourselves in such a way that we can occupy more of that space in your consciousness and really listen to what you are saying that we need to be doing in order to be helping to spread the message that we will spread. But let me tell you, in the time that I was absent, I made a trip to Dominica. Oh yeah, I was in Dominica. I spent a little more than a week in Dominica, and boy, it was good to be home. You know, um, there's this right in this poem that talks about when we leave our home, and nobody leaves their home voluntarily. You know, nobody just, well, some people do because they're adventurous, but on average, in the numbers that we leave, we don't just wake up one day and just thrust ourselves into an unfamiliar environment just because. And so many of us are sort of forced into, you can use the word exile or asylum, because our leaders in the Caribbean have failed us. From since past colonialism, past enslavement, our leaders have really failed to marshal the resources of our countries to make it such that we can create a life for our people that doesn't require us to feel like we have to migrate to another jurisdiction to be able to make a meaningful life and to give opportunities to our children. And so when we move, it seems voluntary, but it's not really voluntary, because if most of us had a choice, we would not come. We would visit and go back. And so I spent a little more than a week in Dominica, and I can tell you, it felt like home. It just really, really felt like home. I hadn't been home in a while, And when I landed in Dominica, first of all, the landing is in Dominica is an adventure, right? When you're approaching the landing, the air hostess says, "Well, as we approach Dominica, ladies and gentlemen, if you look to your left, you see the island. I can promise you that this is going to be a landing that you will remember for the rest of your life. It's going to be one of the more exciting landings that you will have." And she says, just so you're prepared, we get close enough to the trees that you can count the pine cones on the pine trees. And so but the landing was smooth. It was smooth. Once you know what to expect, you don't panic when you see like you're going to pick mangoes on the mango tree or coconuts on the coconut tree. And then we came over, and the landing was really smooth. Um, and the airport was is nicely done. It's upgraded. It's nicely done. And so there I was in Dominica, you know, and I'm coming off the airplane and I'm coming into the terminal and I don't see anybody I recognize. And I say, this is for sure that they bring me to Dominica. No, because how it is I don't recognize anybody. But then I saw Prim. Those of you who know Prim, Prim is this guy who's been working at the airport forever, helping people with their bags for little tip and that sort of thing. I think now he's formally employed at the airport. And so I saw Prim and I said, I know for sure now I am in Dominica because I was at least one person that I recognized. And then I went in and I recognized the custom officer who checked my bag. He said, I know you, you can just go. And Jump on the taxi and drove to Roseau. And it just got better from there. My general impression of Dominica is that I am very impressed with my people. Dominicans have so little, at least that's what it appears, but they do so much with the little that they have. And that was my impression as I went around. People really trying to hold their heads up and have a dignified life with very few opportunities and very few chances. They're doing their best. I cannot say the same for the government and the authorities because it seemed as though they do minimum. They do bare minimum. From the roads, a lot of the surfaces are good, but they're still narrow, missing barricades. It's just, if you're from Dominica, you know the word Bowman. It just seems like Dominica is wearing Bowman. Bowman is the clothes that we wear to do our housework and to go to our farms. And then when we're done, we bathe and put on clothes to go to church. So a Bowman, Dominica that seems to be wearing Bowman, although Dominicans are really trying their best. So I'm supposed to be joined tonight by Mr. Alvin Thomas because what we're going to do is to just touch on a few things about Dominica, talk about our experiences, what we see in Dominica. The One of the reasons why I brought Alvin on is because there's a few developments in Dominica. The government is proposing to go to Parliament with a bill that talks about the registration of electors. Not sure if there has been sufficient consultation, particularly with Dominicans have been clamoring for electoral reform for 10 years. There have been reports upon reports from international and neutral observers. There's been a report from the Caribbean Court of Justice for a comprehensive look and overhaul of our electoral system. I think most people have lost confidence that the electoral system is what it should be, or that it's fair and that it's free. There are a lot of issues that people have been clamoring around, and folks are feeling as though the the party in power is trying to ram through legislature that will be to their advantage. And so, how do we get that message to the government that really and truly they should be serving the best interests of the people, not because you hold in the handle of a blade that you must plunge it into somebody else. You already have the handle of the blade, so you have the advantage, which should give you the confidence and the power to call other people to the table and talk to them, because you already have the advantage. And so we hope that, some kind of dignified um, reasoning will prevail, and Dominicans will not be subjected to what would only feel as oppressive moves. In addition to that, one of the reasons when Alvin comes, he'll talk about that, but they filed a motion in the courts that hasn't been responded to. It has surpassed what is the norm, what is allowed, and they got no response. And so they filed a letter of urgency, and not even that has been responded to. And so we see what can only appear to be a compromise of the judicial system. As an authority, if you dismantle everything that is supposed to be put there as a check and a balance, people have no choice but to feel as though they don't have a they don't have a say. I I hope we can get Alvin on. As soon as Alvin comes, he can join us, um, because we can discuss a few of those things. So there he is, Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
my brother. Welcome.
Thank you, man. Thank you. How you doing?
I'm good. I was dancing by myself waiting for you.
I can see that. I can see Dominica is still shining on you. All that coconut water you drank down there.
Well, let me tell you, like, passing the Carib territory, I see a man selling jelly in the Kalinago territory, I should say. And I stop, I ask him, how much for your coconuts? And he start counting for me. This is 4, 6, 8. He said, you can just take the whole bunch for $10. I said, for real?
That's 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 equivalent to how much US?
I don't even
Like
know.
that's like 3 US. No, I'm trying to equate it
Yeah,
because
ten
you
dollars is like
buy
a little more.
how
Ten
much
dollars
how much
is a little
how
more
much
than
US,
3 US.
how much you paying for one coconut in New York then,
In New
Brooklyn?
York, $5.
Serious? Five
So
US?
5 US for coconut in Brooklyn. I can
You
walk down
kidding?
from
You're
my
not
home.
serious. You're not serious, Tony. Are you
Five
serious?
dollars. Yeah.
5 US dollars for one coconut?
For one coconut, yeah.
And you got a whole
And
bunch for
so and so I had a $20 in my wallet. I just gave it to him.
I
Um,
know. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and the back of my vehicle full. I tell him cut, just cut two of them for me. And so I had coconut water.
Oh my
I had
God.
coconut water for the rest of the trip. That's
Oh,
Dominica, though. That is Dominica.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah.
that's what home feels like.
Oh
You
yeah,
know.
oh yeah.
And I got to Poca say this lady is selling oranges, and I stop and buy
Wow,
a bunch of oranges and
wow,
cucumbers and
wow, wow.
cabbage, because that's what I live on, right?
Right,
And
absolutely.
so I was all set with my meals, for the time that I was there. But yeah, but Dominica, I started tonight by telling folks that very few people leave their home voluntarily. You don't
Hmm.
leave your home unless something is pushing you out of your home.
Hmm.
You know, and so we when so many of us leave home, there are some people who have an adventurous spirit and they would leave home anyway, right? But by and large, in the large numbers that Caribbean people leave their homes to go settle in another land, that is not normal.
Right,
And when you spend time in these islands and you see the quality of life, the small effort it takes to have a certain quality of life, you know for sure that we are not volunteering to be in America.
absolutely.
Yeah. And so that's what we talk about.
Mm.
the outcomes that our countries have had, now that we come into a close in 2024, what kind of outcomes, what kind of aspirations can we have in 2025 to set the stage to bend the act upwards so that our children can have the option to remain in Dominica or to move to Dominica and to enjoy that quality of life, you know.
mm, mhm,
Um, I was in Roseau at 8 o'clock in the morning. I drove to Pocasset. I got there around 9, a little after 9. Went up into the forest, and
Excuse
I'm in a river in Pocasset, just lying down in the river in Pocasset at 9 o'clock in the morning, in the middle of the rainforest. I'm in wall to wall forest. I have videos of it. I'm just there, and I'm like, see where I am. It's just so secluded. I mean, there's a danger. If you get hurt, nobody knows where you are because I was by
mm,
myself. But
mm,
just like and drinking the water too. And and in the afternoon, I went to Jungle Bay, a five-star resort with
mhm,
magnificent views of the Caribbean Sea, and
mhm,
and
mhm,
there's a spa and
mhm.
all of that in one day, and
Right.
just feeling like really, really relaxed. And you say, okay, I left work this evening at 5:30, and I barely sat down on this chair before 8 o'clock. It doesn't compare. It doesn't compare. It
I
doesn't
know,
compare.
I know. Absolutely. You're so right. And and that is one of the reasons that having myself worked in the Ministry of Tourism, that I always felt that the product that we have is such a fantastic one in terms of our environment. Like you said, the fruits you can get, the vegetables, I mean, you just name it. And that is what a lot of wealthy folks are yearning for now. Something where they can just go and just a rejuvenation of the
Right.
body and soul. And that is what Dominica offers. Um, I don't think someone who works, let's say, down Manhattan, that takes an elevator to the 11th floor or the 6th floor or the 5th
That's
floor,
me. I go to the 12th floor.
wants to go
Hmm.
to a vacation and take an elevator to another high rise. They don't want that. They want something like a jungle-based setting, something like what Exotica have is,
Hmm.
resort,
Hmm.
where they can connect with nature. They could, if they're an avid reader, they could take a few of their great books with them and just relax by the river, listening to the stream flowing and reading a good book, or something like that. So I think that is a product that we have somehow not really developed the way we should for the high-end
Hmm. Hmm.
visitors. And you're right, people don't leave just because they want to leave. I mean, a lot of us, we went for certain reasons, either to help our kids get a better education, and once that is over, we want to go back. You
I'm
know,
gonna go back. I'm
going
gonna go
back
back.
now, that's where the environment must be conducive to allow for those things. I heard you mention just before I came on the fact that we filed this matter in the courts several months ago. The first filing was done in September, early September, the 4th,
Hmm.
if I recall. And then we did a subsequent, um, we did a summary saying, good evening, D. Esther. Good evening, D.
Yes, the Easter. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
regular. And then we did a subsequent filing, which is a certificate of urgency. And even that, we've not had a date yet from the courts. Now, the question begs is why that is so. And it is simply because the judiciary system seems to be compromised. And that is dangerous. That is terrible when your judiciary system finds itself in that sort of predicament. Either it could be for a number of reasons. It could be one of um, political interference, where the
Hmm.
political directorate has a hand in what goes and does not go to be tried. We saw several months ago when a matter was nolly prossed by the DPP. Just decide, well, hey, I'm throwing this out. I mean, I heard it
Right.
said this bill matter that was given recently to this alleged um, murderer of these two persons last year, around
Accused murderer.
accused murderer,
Mhm.
yeah. It was part of it had to do with the evidence wasn't sufficiently put together. Um, we have backlogs of persons on remand at the state prison, on remand for charges that they are yet to be brought before the courts and determined. We have members of the opposition parties in the person of Thompson Fontaine and Honorable
Edison
Edison James
James.
and those
Mhm.
persons, Linton, as before the courts. We're talking for almost 7 years, Tony. We're not talking about 2 years, 7, 5, and more years for crimes they felt that those persons had committed and cannot be determined. So, in terms of the matter that we file, is the same thing. And as I have said on this program before and other programs, there is a reason why in a democracy systems are set up and they are guardrails so that
Yep.
there is an issue of difference, then that's what the judiciary is there for. That's what the court system is there for. The legislature has its roles, the cabinet, the executive has its roles, the judiciary has its roles. But when these guardrails are removed, then it is what? Anarchy and chaos. That's what it begs to, anarchy and chaos, because it means that if someone feels, well, boy, I'm not going to get my redress in the court, so I'm going to take matters into my own hands and deal with it. And is that the kind of democracy? And is that the kind of society we want to engage in? And I mean, as we speak, you see what's developing in Syria. You know,
Right.
I mean, it gets to a point when people have had so much, they're going to say, you know what, I've had enough of this. I'm done. I've had enough. And I think what has happened over the last 12 months
Hmm.
in Dominica, there are a number of areas. And when we say those things and we have these programs like we're having there, some folks, not all, some folks tend to believe that we are crying down our country. But it's not a matter of crying down the country. I think what has happened over the years is that fewer folks, too fewer folks are brave enough to speak truth to power and to call it as it is. I mean, we talk about the judiciary, we talk about the persecution of those persons, we talk about the people at Wesley, the fact that you have what is called a Land Acquisition Act that spells out the process and the procedure for acquiring people's land in based on public interest. Okay, government feels that they need a piece of land to cut a road or to build some, something that has significance to the community.
Yeah,
But
when I
there's
was at Tabasco, sometimes we would acquire land to build water tanks.
exactly, but there's a
No,
process
no, I
to
was
it.
saying when I was at Tabasco, we would acquire. Mhm, mhm.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
but
Alvin.
you have situations now where folks in Wesley tell you their lands were acquired, they've not been compensated, they may have been given a swap piece of land elsewhere. They have not been able to get a certificate of title for it, or the probate has not been properly done. I mean, this is, I mean, this is madness, to be honest. You know, so that's where we are,
Mhm,
and it begs the question
mhm,
now:
mhm.
do we continue on that trajectory, or how do we see ourselves going into 2025? You know, um, I think we lost you, Tony. We lost Tony. Um, I think
We're
we
having a
lost
storm,
what?
so I don't know. I don't know if that's
Or the
affecting the
storm might have
quality of the
affected that.
internet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I
Mhm.
was saying that do we continue on that trajectory, or what? Where do we see ourselves in the new year coming, 2025? How do we position ourselves for 2025?
Right.
And that's the question I think we all need to ask ourselves. Yeah. I think your signal, yeah, your signal is going in and out.
Yeah, we seem to be getting a little bit of
Bad weather.
internet issues. Seem like it's dropping. I don't know if it's on our side or, but
I'm good. I
and to pick,
go ahead.
I was saying to pick up from what you were saying is, as a people, sooner or later we have to take stock. There, from what I see in Dominica, there's a lot of people who are day to day really struggling to make ends meet, and they have their families to feed, they have commitments, they have obligations, and they almost don't have time. Even if they want to do something, they want to do more, they really cannot make the time to participate the way they want to participate. On top of that, government is almost the only game in town.
Hmm.
And so the consequences and the cost of speaking up can be high.
Hmm.
And it's not even like people going to be, it's not even like people going to be protesting or anything. It's
Hmm.
just as regular people, we look at a situation and we ask a question. People are scared to ask questions because they don't know how their questions will be received and what will be the consequence. So, for example, you brought up the case of the gentleman who is accused of committing murder. That happened just a few months ago,
Right.
and he already had a bail hearing. He already set bail. As a matter of fact, he had two bail hearings.
Yeah.
Right, the first time he was denied, the second time it was granted. But in that same time, you have Dominicans who are sitting on remand in jail for 7 8 years,
Yeah.
and their matter have not been brought before the court. And so anybody who's reasonable should be able to ask a question and say, wait a minute, how comes this one could move forward in a couple of months, but in 8 years we've not been able to move this one forward to where somebody can get a fair bail hearing or
And you
a
have
trial
and Tony, you have people now on remand for murder.
for murder, yes, and for lesser crimes, you know. And they cannot get a bail hearing. By now, after 7 8 years, there should be a trial.
Yeah. Diesta is making a comment there. Did you see what she
Yeah,
posted?
she said Mr. Thomas is on point. The current individuals passing as government has no vision. We are urgently in need of a change of governance to promote this nature aspect of the island that uniquely positions Dominica to be a health and wellness tourism destination. So she
Absolutely.
was supporting your earlier point
Yes.
about,
Yeah.
when people go on vacation, they want something different, something that's more rejuvenating than just another high-end hotel where they drink the same
And
rum, they drink.
and this is a multi-billion-dollar segment of the industry, health and wellness tourism.
Yes.
It's much bigger than cruise tourism, way bigger, the health and wellness. And what you
Hmm.
find is that these are the high earning spending people. These are the executives and this guy who maybe have this stressful job, corporate job, and can afford to say, you know what, I just want to go somewhere where I can spend 15 grand, 10 grand, 20 grand and just chill and have a good time. That's not the same
Right.
person that come on a cruise that maybe get it at a bargain discount cruise of maybe 2 grand. Come here, maybe do a little tour. All of that is in the package.
Maybe buy a t-shirt.
You know, buy a t-shirt, buy two souvenirs for the day, and then hop back on the cruise ship and go somewhere else.
Right.
The health and wellness person is somebody who's going to come and, like I said, will stay at, like you said, stay at Jungle Bay. Spend four
Hmm.
days at Jungle Bay, get a nice spa, go to the Sulphur Spring, go to the do a bike ride, a mountain ride, something to pump his heart a little more. Sit down by the river, as you say, soak in that nice cold water, T2 gorge, that, and that person will spend, because they feel when they go back after 5, 10 days, they're rejuvenated, they're
Right.
re-energized.
Hmm.
And I think we're missing out on that. But you were making the point as it relates to the folks who were denied bail, and that too is a very, very telling
Hmm.
story.
So what I was saying is that as we look towards 2025, there are folks who look at that and might want to ask a question, but they're so busy hustling to make a living, they don't have the time. Maybe they make a comment on the fly, but they don't have the time to really dive into it and really have a discussion and to have that atmosphere in the country of people who, so the government knows that there are folks who are watching them and who express dissatisfaction, who express concern because people are struggling so much. The people who can do that are few and far between.
Hmm.
And so that is a role that we have to play on our programs, is to provide that platform where we can have those discussions, we can have those thoughts, we can come up with ways of really trying to restore that back and forth without people feeling that because I'm asking a question, it means that I oppose you. And because I oppose you, you see me as somebody that you have to make sure that I don't get any kind of power or any kind of freedom where I can continue to oppose you or to increase my strength in opposing you.
Hmm. Hmm.
We who are live outside of that sphere have to be able to assist. So our assistance is not only sending a barrel or contributing to a GoFundMe. Our assistance also has to be in trying to change the environment so that children who are coming up have an opportunity for an improved way of life.
No, absolutely. I agree with that entirely. And like last year, December, I visited Dominica, spent about 10 days there. Actually, I spent Christmas in Dominica last Christmas. And I think the observation that you've just made as it relates to folks not wanting to say anything is so true, because of, again, the political animosity that has created in the country, whereby if somebody were to ask a question or raise an issue, they are seen as an enemy of the state. These are the words that, unfortunately, some of our leaders in government have used at the highest level. You are seen as an enemy of the state. Now you know that term, enemy of the state, what that means. That when somebody is borders on committing treason,
Treason, yeah.
and if you're enemy of the state, you must be get rid of, as
Hmm.
because you're enemy of the state, and that's how, unfortunately, some people's views are taken. But again, in a society where folks are not allowed to express themselves, I mean, you and I, we grew up in our times in an era. I may be a couple years ahead of you, as you can tell from my beard.
Barely.
You know, we grew up in an era where it was the right thing to be creative, to think in. I mean, I went to St. Mary's Academy. You went to grammar school, and I mean, we did debates, we did argue stuff. You know, um, and that's what made us, and we moved from there, and we joined other organization. We joined JC's, boys club, different thing, debating committee, reading newspapers, strong arguments, and back and forth. And not even that is healthy today. You just have to have like a tunnel vision, and it's if you see anything, you're an anti this and anti that. And I think that environment is so unfortunate,
Mhm.
for a democracy. And like you said, those of us out there who, fortunate for us, we had the opportunity to see both sides of the world, put it this way. Um, we are from Dominica, we know what happens here, but we also operate and work and function at in a developed world, put it this way, in the United States. A number of us have worked at various senior management positions in the US. So we've seen it all, you know? And I think herein lies, therefore, our responsibility to help to give back,
Yeah.
and to find a way to shape the conversation and the dialogue and the discussion that needs to take place, and to kind of help those folks back home.
And I think a key to it is to help people to aspire.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, people
Absolutely.
should not exist with a sense of hopelessness.
Absolutely.
Look at how Dominicans rallied around the enjoyment of PLA for getting a
Hmm.
gold medal
Hmm.
at
Hmm.
the Olympics.
Hmm.
I mean, it's as if people were hungry for something to raise up in the air and say, look, we are proud. Look at how much appreciation they showed for our cricketers who made it to the West Indies team.
Right. Right. Right.
People are hungry for success stories that they can associate with. And how do we help to inspire people to really understand what makes them a Dominican, and by extension, therefore, be proud to be Dominicans, and therefore be willing to defend the things that make them Dominican.
Mm.
You know,
Mm.
so our national bird, our songs, our music. Now, every culture has fringes. So our music, we have some things that's happening on the fringes that some of us was frowned upon, but people enjoy nasty
Hmm.
business and so on. But that
Hmm.
should not find its way to center stage.
Hmm.
You know,
Hmm.
it has its place in entertainment. It has its place in whatever. Um, you definitely need to make people understand um, what is it to be Dominican. Like our fresh people in Dominica don't understand how lucky and how much of a big deal it is that 1 hour from a city you can be in a river that you can just drink water from without being afraid that you're going to get some kind of parasite or some kind of poisoning.
Did he just give you the portfolio of tourism promotion officer? You know,
What is
she she,
that?
she just assigned you
Say, Mr.
huge
You did a
responsibility,
good job sharing your.
Mr. Drygo. So it looked like that is something you might have to take on board for the new year. You did a great
Let me
job.
tell you.
Fresh off your trip.
Mhm.
Someone who had never been to Dominica is encouraged to be just listening to your call. See the talent
Thank
you
you.
got. You
Thank you,
got
D.
more than just hosting this week in interview. You know, huh? The Ministry of Tourism need to get you to do a spiel. That's what I'm talking about. And I fully
Maybe,
endorse what she
maybe
said.
next time I will do this as I'll do a special this weekend interview from Podcast A. But
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 this but you know
uh, go
what I
ahead.
was
Go.
saying is that the reason why I could do that is because right where I was within the Montapita National Park Forest Reserve,
Mhm.
a UNESCO World Heritage Site.
Right. Right.
So I know there is no human activity upstream of me.
Hmm.
That in itself, as you know, is a gold mine.
Absolutely. Yes. Indeed.
All of our forest reserves and national parks. And the on the flip side of that, I went to Portsmouth and I was driving along that Bell Hall Road towards Tatan area, going towards Tatan, Gillette. Savant Pie, like you know, when JC's,
Right.
when you were in JC's, we did that project on Bell Hall Beach, remember? We
Yes,
did
yes,
picnic shelters
yeah, I
and
remember.
they were dump and they were dumping. That's
I
why that
remember.
was the dump, and we got them to relocate
Mm,
where they were dumping trash and so on. On the right hand side, there's some construction that's happening. Just a wide expanse of bare ground. They've taken out every last blade of grass. I mean, just huge. I cannot understand what kind of construction that you're doing, that you have to just clear acres of land. Just clear it, I mean, just turn
brutalized.
it to dirt. And that area is part of the Cambridge National Park,
Wow,
you know. Just across the street from that are the mangroves,
wow, wow, wow,
you
wow.
know. And that's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about the idea is that you have to make Dominicans recapture that sense of pride, because that type of destruction should draw more attention
Hmm.
and some kind of concern. It doesn't have to be a protest. It could be a simple letter to the editor. It can be a simple post on Facebook. At least start there. You know, we have to be able to let people know that hey, that is not okay. I
Hmm.
may not be able to stop you because you have the power of the state behind you, but I still want to register that I think that this is wrong. And that's where we have to start.
No, you're
And
right.
people
You
have to feel affronted when they see the fabric of what makes us Dominican being torn up, being torn and tattered.
mm. No,
You
you're
know?
right. You're absolutely right. And like you said earlier, um, that some of the work and what we're doing is not just for us who are here today, but for it's for our children's children, children. I mean, you or came originally from Castle Bruce, and I mean, you can go way back, your parents, your grandparents, your great grandparents, and we'll talk and tell you what Castle Bruce was like and what it is. And you'd want to see 50 years from now when you may not be there, but your kids are there, your grandkids there, that they could still see and see a Castle Bruce or Wesley or
Mm-hmm.
Rosalie or
Mm-hmm.
Lapley,
Mm-hmm.
that the case might be. But one of the things I will also say too is that Dominicans are very hardworking people, very creative, very entrepreneurial. I mean, I think it was on one of your programs the other day we spoke of some of our successful business people in Dominica who never went to business school.
Right.
Okay, hidden supermarket. I mean, you know,
You have a lot of folks in construction, you
a lot
have
of folks
folks
in construction
in
who
manufacturing. Yeah.
never went to one day of business school and was able to run successful businesses across the board. I mean, you had so many young entrepreneurs, young business people have their little shops selling, Boise, Thomas, you did Charles, E.H. Charles. I mean, Jollies, what Jollies is today, started off with the father and the Jolly, you know. So Dominicans are that type of people. And even when we migrate and come to the US or Canada or the United Kingdom, wherever it is, you've never heard Dominicans in any other called quote unquote trouble or. You'd say, well, boy, look, they have this big crime taking place in New York and a Dominican involved. Or in Boston, a Dominican do this, a Dominican do that, or in Canada, whatever. You hardly hear that. You hardly hear that. And you will hear a lot of achievements. You will hear, boy, this guy's son, his daughter went to law school, they went to medicine, that one into engineering, that one went to architecture. So we are a very enterprising people. And that's what makes it even sad when folks back home are stifled and not allowed to express themselves. And like you say, simply because they're trying so hard to make ends meet. that they see a situation like what you described with this land degradation, that they cannot see anything about it. So many other stuff taking place, and they just, they're just immune to say something because, boy, if I say something, I might lose my job, or they might come down on me, or they might see me this way. I think this is something that we definitely have to eradicate as we move into a new year. And
Yeah.
and even on this program again, we have said time and time again, we are fast approaching 50 years as an independent nation, half
Hmm.
a century. Where and how do we want to see Dominica when we would, on our 50th anniversary of independence, say, have we arrived? And if the answer is yes, we have arrived, how have we arrived? What have we
Yeah.
taken with us with that
Yeah.
arrival?
But the way to do, and to be able to answer that, we have to be able to look there and set a goal. Where would we like to see Dominica? What kind of things we would like to be celebrating in Dominica to mark our 50th? So would we like to see a botanical gardens that's upgraded, for example, that we can take our visitors and spend time there? Would we be able to go to, I don't know, a spa where we have glow show and those kind of things in Dominica? But when you come out of there, you can come out with minerals, salts, and different things that you can use.
How do we add value
Yeah,
to it?
exactly. If we had to sit down and say, okay, when we celebrate 50 years of independence, we would like to be able to list 10 things that the country has achieved or the country has going on. What are those 10 things? And if those 10 things don't exist right now, how can we work towards bringing them into existence, or at least in process by the time we're 50?
Mhm.
You know, uh,
What do
we
we aspire to?
what do we aspire to? We have to set those aspirations, and then we can strive to it. And I think that is the second part of the equation. So the first part would be to inculcate in our people a sense of pride and an understanding of what makes us a Dominican as opposed to what makes us a St. Lucian or a Grenadian or a Kititian. What we all Caribbean people, but every island is a little unique. Barbadians celebrate their Bajanness differently from Trinidadians celebrate their Trinidadness, or Jamaicans celebrate the Jamaicanness.
Mhm.
Likewise, Dominicans have things that are unique to Dominica. We have our songs that talk about the little things that
Mhm.
make us appreciate Dominica and warn us about not letting them take Dominica from us. And
Mhm.
so I said that was number one, getting people to understand and be proud of that. The second part of it is to get our people to set goals and set aspirations. Maybe a really nice goal would be to have a net positive immigration into the country.
Right.
You know, while I
Right.
was in Dominica, I spoke to somebody who had the statistics, and the person told me, in 2023, only 670 babies were born in Dominica.
Wow.
In the last 5 years, 1,000 babies were not born in Dominica.
Wow.
And so, out of that 670 babies, when they get to be 18 years old, how many of them will still be in Dominica?
Hmm. Wow.
Those are the serious things that we're talking about.
Right. Right.
You know, already few people, and the reason why so few people are getting born is because people of childbearing age have migrated.
And those who
That's one
remain,
of the main
and
reasons.
those who remain are not in a position to maintain a
Have more
family
than one or two children.
because there's a cost involved.
And
Clothing,
then and then
food, school, health, you name it.
exactly. And then out of that small number, 75% of them leave.
Right.
So we're emptying out the country.
Yeah, that's a huge, huge a huge yeah, it's a huge
It's
situation.
dire,
Yeah,
you
it's a
know,
dire
it's
situation.
dire, and you can see some villages are ahead of the decay in terms of I went to Castle Bruce. I'm from Castle Bruce. The area in Castle Bruce where I grew up is called St. House. Alvin, the school that I went to, when you leave the school and you go up to our home up on the hill, 5 or 6 homes are still standing.
Hmm.
12, 15 of them just not there. If you did not know there was a house once upon a time, you don't know there was a house. It's just grass.
Hmm.
You know Castle Bruce. Anybody that come to
Of
Castle Bruce
course.
used to know
Oh
me.
yeah.
Used to know Mr. Ostrich shop.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That big building, Mr. Ostrich shop.
Right, right.
When you go there, you grass that there,
Wow, 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 wow.
and that is symbolic of the country as a whole. Different villages at different stages of that. But
Hmm.
and then to exacerbate it, the government instead of in their assistance to people with housing, build apartment buildings and now gather people in one little plot of land in an apartment. So that
Oh,
makes it even that exacerbates the situation even more because whereas now you would have say 20 homes, you have one building. So the space where the 20 homes used to be is just bush now.
yeah, yeah. That brings me to another major area which I think is lacking tremendously, and I saw that too when I was back home. I think a lot of policy decisions are taken in the absence of data and information.
Yeah.
So out of emotion, maybe a person says, "Oh, we'll build a house for you." So they just go build a house in apartment, as you say, in Casinos. Oh, we'll do that. So because from my recollection, based on what I know, we've not had a population census in the last 15 or more years, I believe. The last one that was done, I think, was back in in 2005 or thereabout. I stand corrected.
Mm.
Maybe what's his name? Sam could fact check that for us. But you know, Tony, based on your what you do, you're an engineer and architect. You cannot make decision in the absence of data and information. Data and information is what's going to drive everything what you do.
Mm-hmm.
So if we don't have the data, we cannot now make projections. We cannot do you know, population and what you're saying, we're seeing it. But in terms of the data, the actual data, it's just not there.
Not there.
You know, everything is done on a Vike manner. I mean, take for example, recently they imposed some, I don't know if you want to call it a levy or if you want to call it an increase on Dawasco water increase
The water tariffs. Uh-huh.
tariff. In my mind, that was done again
Mm.
outside of data. They look at the books, they realize, hey, we're losing money. We our revenues fall by a million or 2 million. Let's just increase the rate. But they never dig deep into it to the extent where they just categorize everybody, as they say, you as a smaller medium, and you pay X amount now, and you pay X amount now, and you find now such a disparity and a discrepancy in terms of the rate vis-a-vis what they consider a large business and a small business. How you determine a large business? What is the criteria you use to determine a small or medium or large business? And I think that too is a major problem that has to be addressed. The fact that a lot of this decision seems to be made in the absence of proper data and information to drive those
And
decisions.
and the culture of making decisions based on data. So specifically to what you're talking about, somebody was telling me they own a shop, they have a building. That's all they have a shop. They don't live there, just a shop. The shop has one sink. Wash their hands while they're in the shop, and I think they have a toilet in there. but because of their revenue, they classify it as a certain type of business. So the amount that they have to pay is more than the person down the road that has a car wash because they conceive to be a bigger business than the car wash. So their standard fee, because what they raised was a standard fee.
Mhm.
The standard fee that they pay as a shop with a sink and a toilet is more than somebody who has a car wash
Mhm.
because it was based on a micro business, a small business, and a large business.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
So even when we have the data, the little bit of data we don't use it.
Right.
So that reinforces the point that you're making because if we're not even using the little bit of data that we have, what is going to inform us to go look for more data?
Right. Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So so decisions are just made on the
On the
fly.
fly. On the fly.
Yeah.
On the fly.
Mhm.
Because based on what you said with the birth rates and all of that, that's going to have implications. Um, Maybe what, 3 years, 5 years from now, preschool education, primary education, secondary education.
Yeah.
So that will also have further implication on schools.
On schools.
How do you allocate schools and where do you allocate schools?
Hmm.
And how your curriculum is designed. And all that type of thing is going to, your whole education system,
And how you where's your workforce
your
to
workforce,
support your industry?
to support your industry.
Yeah. What kind of industry you should be encouraging because you will have that, you know. And when you think about it,
So
to
we just
Alvin,
get up
remember,
one morning and realize, hey, that school now we used to have a school population of 150. Now we only have 60. How that happened now?
but when I did the interview with the people from the Cancer Society, we have almost 300 people a year dying from cancer, right?
Oh, look, Sam put a note there. No public census data available. The government website says the 2021 census is coming soon.
Hmm.
So
The
so it's
2021 census is
it's
coming
coming
soon.
soon. So that means prior to 2021. When was the last one? That's what
Which
Sam was telling us.
2020?
When was the
Which
last
20?
one
Which
done?
2021 we talking about? The one that coming
I don't-
because we finish in 2024. So how can
So no public. So when you say no public, so there's nothing prior to 2021, nothing in 2019, nothing in 2014, nothing in 2003 or 2004. I mean,
yeah. So how does the government make decisions? What do they base their decisions on? And so it sounds like we just sit down here talking, but those are serious things, and those are
oh
the type of
yeah, this is a
discussions that
very,
we need.
very serious stuff.
Those are
Very
these
serious stuff.
discussions that we need to be having.
This is not joke
Yeah.
stuff. This is very
No.
serious stuff as it
Hmm.
relates to the governance of a country and how
Hmm.
you manage and run a country. This is not just saying stuff for the sake of saying stuff. And
And no, and if you're the government and you realize that, boy, boys, in 1 year, some says they had a census, but they never released the data. Um, in 1 year, you have less than 700 people. In the last 5 years, you have another 1,000 people. You should be scrambling trying to figure out how you're going to deal with that problem. But I guess maybe that is what informed the prime minister when the prime minister made the comment about, it's raining, so get busy because the country needs people. But so that probably points to the fact that he's aware of it. But at a policy level, how do
right,
you address that? You know, do you encourage migration? Do what is it that you're going to do or do you just agree that if we continue on this trajectory, then Dominica will just be a holiday place where people go, and you have a few people working in hotels and tours, and that's it because you don't really
but
have
but but I
Dominicans
think
left.
I think what that would do is two things. One, it would help to address our migration policy, how folks are living, and also maybe to help um, put in place an immigration policy,
Yeah, that's
just
what I'm
like the
saying. Yeah.
U.S. has its policy to attract, train people to come in
Hmm.
and H1
Yeah.
visa and that kind of thing. So that now, how do we bring people in a very organized, systematic way? And how do we insensitize people not to leave, but to
And how
stay?
do you incentivize people to have more children?
Exactly, exactly.
You know, have some programs that can assist mothers and children
But
and that sort of thing. Yeah.
to do that, you must now have the data
Hmm.
and the information. It
And the
cannot be
information.
on the fly, and that seems to be the modus operandi in
Hmm.
how the government run things. So having said all of that, Tony, it means therefore that 2025 is going to be a crucial year for us. I guess one might say we say that every year at the start of every year. Um, so 2020, Sam just put something. According to the search result, the most recent census taken in Dominica is on the 14th. Is the 14th population housing census, which was officially launched on June. This census is the latest available data on record. Note the 2011 census population figure mentioned in another search result is the older data point and not the most recent one. There is no specific information available on the search result regarding the exact date of data collection or release. So we're saying it in essence is 2011. So that
Hmm.
is what 13 years ago.
13 years ago. Mhm. And you're in a population where you can count everybody. If you really want to, you can count everybody in Dominica in a week.
Mm,
You know,
mm,
most people in a village can sit down. They don't even have to go to people home. They can sit down and write down everybody name in every house. Right, when I living in Castle Bruce, I can sit down and write everybody name in every house in Castle Bruce.
mm, mm,
You know,
mm,
so it doesn't take long to do those things. But again, it's not a culture where we make decisions based on data. It's a culture where we make decisions based on maybe emotions, maybe on different things, and so that is the type of society that we have to promote. So for the coming year, that what we have to really address is how do we come up with a plan to get Dominicans who live in Dominica and Dominicans who don't live in Dominica to really be concerned and to pledge to do something about changing the psyche and changing the conversation, how Dominicans think about themselves, how Dominicans talk about themselves, how Dominicans talk about Dominica, how they think about Dominica. What one of the most disappointing things that's happened is that when we were kids, we always heard about an international airport, and now the government is doing an international airport, but they're implementing the idea in the same manner in which it was put forward in 1960, 1970. Flatten a mountain, fill a couple rivers, build an airstrip. You know, I drive from Melvin Hall to Roseville and back, and I'm saying that it's a tedious drive. So unless you're going to be having more economic and more activities happening in the north, nowhere is it okay to have an hour drive from your airport to where people are going to stay and where it's going to happen. Isn't there a way we could have employed technology to have an airport that's closer to Roseau, whether it's on the coast? And we live in America, we have roads that are built, miles and miles of road that we're driving up on suspended platforms. A plane can land on a suspended platform. When we go to the airports in the US and you're driving underneath the runway, you drive the plane taxiing above your head as you're
Same
driving through
here,
the
same here
airport.
in Atlanta
Yeah.
at the airport. Same here,
So
same thing.
who says an airport has to be built on ground? Who says that?
Yeah, same thing. Yeah. And
So
you know what is even mind-boggling with this, and that comes again to how we go about our diplomatic relationship with foreign governments and countries, because as it is now, we are into this diplomatic arrangement with China. Okay, and as it is said, and I'm subject to correction, China has a very um uh, 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 how should I say, uh, uh, a big fingerprint on the building and the development of the airport. It's
mhm.
a Chinese company that doing it. You know, Tony, that as far as technology in China, it's not for want of technology. They have the fastest rail system. They have several other things. One may argue that maybe the company who is building airport now may not have built airport for China, but the point remains China has the technology. So it is just in it to reinforce what you're saying. The technology is there.
Yeah.
So what is it when we go into negotiations with China we are asking for? I saw a Facebook post 2 days ago with a serious accident that took place somewhere in Point Michel or along that stretch of road there. You telling me that we can't find a way to deal with that road situation we have when you come in, let's say from Newton, they're going all the way Citonier, Point Michel, to put a bypass or some sort of overpass.
I
Of
think we can
road.
have a coastal I think we can have a coastal highway from
Huh?
Spotshead all the way to Portsmouth.
But of course,
It's only
engineering is spiritual
that's only about 20
engineer.
miles.
That's
That's
not
only
rocket
about
science. Dominica is
that's
just how many miles
20
long, how many
miles.
miles
It's only about
wide.
20, yeah, 20 something miles.
I mean, I'm in Atlanta right there. I drove off. We have an area called 285, and I drove there a couple of days ago, and I see them fellas doing some kind of. I say, what? You know, put in line and again, they have the data which suggests the traffic congestion, and so how do we deal with that? And they put a flag over there for you easily.
Mhm.
So why is it that when we're negotiating with these guys, we negotiate peanuts? Huh? I mean, look at the fact that we have one public library. I always have to lament that. One public library in the city of Roseau. You're telling me that we cannot say to the Chinese, look, we want a state of the art library with computers. Now you're talking about AI, you're talking about all that kind of stuff. We want a state of the art library there. Why we can negotiate those things? Why is like a scraps we have to be asking and begging for? We have a China Friendship Hospital. That's what it's called. China Friendship Hospital. Why we don't have state-of-the-art equipments in there? Medicine to supply. And all what goes with it. This is our main hospital. Why can't we have that? So, it just really and just quickly to say though, I don't know if you saw a post that again was on Facebook recently showing the countries, the number of ministries or ministers, the population, and the GDP in dollars amount. Dominica is coming out with 18 ministers, a population of 72,000 thereabout, and a GDP dollar value in 2023, that is, of course, of $653.9 million. Antigua is coming out with 12 ministers, a population of 99,000, a GDP dollar value of $2.03 billion. St. Lucia is coming up with 15 ministers, a population of 185,866, a GDP dollar value of $2.62 billion. St. Vincent is coming out with 12 ministers, a population of 110,000, a GDP dollar value of $1.07 billion. And Grenada is coming out with 13 ministers, a population of 113,000, a GDP of $1.32 billion. You hear the numbers? I mean, so
So
so when we talk about that, are we crying down, or are we speaking truth to power and asking the question why? How do you
why,
justify that?
how
Dominica
do
has
we how do we make
18
the country more
ministers,
efficient and more productive?
72,000 population, a GDP dollar value in 2023 of $653.9 million. So
So
we have,
listen to what somebody sent me.
yeah,
Go
sure, go
ahead,
ahead.
go ahead.
No, go ahead, go
No,
ahead, go ahead.
you finish. It's a different thought. It's a
No,
different thought.
so clearly, how do you justify per capita 18 ministers, 72,000 population, and a GDP of just $653 million?
Oh, the 72,000 is a stretch, eh?
Well, plus or minus, but even then,
Since you were going to estimate Dominica at 70,000 people, and among the migration they have, it cannot stay at 70. But anyway,
Antigua, Antigua and St. Vincent has the less 12 ministers
12
with a
ministers.
population of 99,000 and St. Vincent
But the
110,000.
fact is that the appointment of ministers is used as a reward and incentive for folks to run for office, run to contest elections, not necessarily because they're required to administer the affairs of the country. It's seen as a reward. I win my seat,
But
I deserve to be a
that is
minister.
true. But if they were performing and you say, well, okay, they give you a
But
ministry.
they already perform. They already won their seat. The performance that they have to have is to win their seat. And in fairness, this is not something of just the Labour Party. You know, we have a history of that where people, because they win their seat, they think they should be a minister. Because a minister carries with it a certain prestige, a certain weight, certain privilege, as opposed to a minister who is maybe the CEO of a ministry and therefore should be responsible for the outcomes of that ministry.
But
So,
why is it that Antigua can function with 12 ministers with a bigger population, generate more
because
GDP?
because in Antigua they they are based on performance, not necessarily just reward for running for election. So you think Antigua has only 12 constituencies?
No.
Right. Dominica has 18 ministers because we have 21 constituencies. So there's a couple people, because in those ministries, there are a couple people who are junior ministers.
Who has to be
They
rewarded?
want their seat, but they're junior ministers, right? So it's not based on what is required to run the country. It's based on who win the election. And they want to, well, I win my election, I'll become minister. I mean, Alvin is a minister, I'm a minister. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Tony didn't run for election, you make him a minister. You make him a
Except
senator, and you
says
make him a
you
minister.
all forget the number of permanent secretaries too. But you were going to read something you said you got.
Yeah, in response to our thing about using data to make drive decisions,
Okay.
Tokyo in Japan, the Tokyo government gives workers a 4-day work week so they can boost fertility and family time. So Tokyo recognized that they want more people. And I'm sure that's not the only thing they do. They go to that. I'm sure they have programs where they have childcare and they have assistance to be able to feed your family. So that now you're not afraid that you're going to have 3 children and you can afford to feed them or to send them to school.
Right, right, right.
It comes back to what we were talking about. Look at the data, and if it concerns you, how do you drive policy to change the circumstance,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
change the environment? And
mm-hmm.
so, again, that's so. The point what is that those things that we're talking about, Alvin, is not wild imagination.
Right,
Everything that we've spoken about tonight, you don't have to do much of a search to see that it's already been done.
right,
You don't
right.
have to do much of a search to find out that you can build as elevated platform on your coastline and make it an airport.
Absolutely.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to search far to understand that your mountains and your rivers are much more valuable than an airport,
Right, right.
especially if you can do the airport somewhere else. I mean, I
Absolutely.
was really happy that I was able to leave New York and get to Dominica by 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Mhm.
But you know, the plane that I came down on was probably 40% full.
But you see, you made a very good point there, because you were able to do that in the absence of an international airport.
Exactly.
So we don't have an international airport, and you were able to do that. So the question
Exactly.
that begs itself: can we do some upgrades or whatever needs to be done to enhance that and to make that even better?
Yeah. And to get that to overcapacity, and then you can justify the building of an airport.
That's right. That's right.
Because I'm able to leave New York, get to Dominica at 2:30, right? But the plane is half full.
Exactly. Half full.
So
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 the
you could
capacity.
get you could get twice the amount of people. And it's
Exactly.
that one flight. I
Now,
think the other flights come from Puerto
now,
Rico. That's one flight.
if that is a what? How many seaters that plane you're talking about? If what? Uh,
Maybe 60 or 70,
60
maybe.
seater, and you're saying it's half, so that means
Maybe
there is
about if all that maybe 20, 30 people that came on the
so
plane.
30 people. So what have we done between now, and what are we doing? Maybe I should ask, for when that 200 seater plane is coming, that you'll
That
have
we
the
don't have 30
whole
people
plane
on it.
of 30 people on it, or
Mhm.
maybe just 60, doubly 30. 60 out of the 200, so you're still short 140.
Yeah. No, those are the questions. And you know, it's not criticized.
No, it's
This is
reality.
what this is
It's
what we're
like
supposed to be asking.
you need
Asking.
transportation to take you from A to B, and you chose, well, let me get a Porsche instead of a Honda or some other car, but you want a Porsche. So the Porsche is going to take you, that costs you a hundred and something $1,000 for that car to take you from point A to B. And you can get that same car for maybe 40,000 or $30,000 to take you from point A to B.
And you're struggling to pay the
And you're
car
struggling to
loan,
pay the
and you're
Porsche,
struggling to put gas in
because
the
the
Porsche.
maintenance on the Porsche is
Yeah.
more, the parts are
Hmm.
more,
Hmm.
more expensive for parts. You have to maintain it. It requires the highest grade of gas. So the gas you put in there is going to cost you so much a gallon as against the other regular
Hmm.
gas, you know. So these are real questions.
Those are questions that needs to be asked. And
And and again, it goes back to what we were saying earlier: in the absence of data and information, it would be interesting. And again, the airport is going up without, as far as we know, an EIA or no information. It'd be interesting to see, well, what have been our projection in terms of passengers, air passengers, over the last 10 years, and what kind of projection are we looking at for,
exactly,
say, 5 years?
exactly.
So we
Now,
can justify and say, you know what, our numbers have been going up by X amount over the last 10, 15 years, and we project it to go up to another whatever. And that is the kind of capacity we're looking at. Or is it just a question
mhm,
because we feel we want an international airport, and we feel if we have an international airport, more people will come? So it's a feeling as against a decision based on data and information.
right. And what is the purpose of the international airport? So, if it's to bring people to the country, where are they coming from? And what are they coming to see? And how can our product sustain that additional traffic? How many people can you walk through the botanical gardens before it starts to look like just a neglected piece of area? Because you're going to be trekking through, and now to circumvent traffic in Roseau, people drive through the botanical gardens, whereas before the botanical gardens was not really a thoroughfare. Now it is a thoroughfare because
Right,
now you come up through Goodwill, you go along Bath Estate, and you come through the botanical gardens if you go in, depending on which side of Roseau you go into.
right. Absolutely.
And so when I'm driving through the gardens, on at least 3 occasions, I have to stop and allow tour guides to walk across the street with tourists who are going through the botanical gardens. Now,
Mm.
if you understand the concept of botanical gardens, you shouldn't be dodging traffic while you enjoy the botanical gardens.
Right, right, right.
So again, it goes back to how we're thinking about, because me in my car, sitting there impatient, watching 20 tourists cross the road is not adding to this people experience of being in a botanical gardens in the
Right.
nature island.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know that kind of thing. It's not,
Mm-hmm.
because all they see is like if they're in New York or Detroit or Chicago or Atlanta where there's traffic.
Mm-hmm.
Because in that botanical gardens, you want to be able to enjoy a pristine
Yeah. First,
environment.
first of all, First of all, I always find it a wrong thing to have all these motor vehicles going through the botanical garden.
Exactly. That's
I
exactly what I'm
think
saying.
it is the fumes from the vehicle, the heat from the vehicle, all of that is not good for the gardens. Okay?
And the
Like you say,
noise.
the noise. The botanical garden should be a botanical garden.
Gardens, yeah.
And maybe have an occasional vehicle there and then.
Go past.
Something
Exactly.
come to drop something or to do that. But not to have it as a regular thoroughfare like we
Thoroughfare.
have,
Yeah.
going
Yeah.
back and
Yeah.
forth.
Yeah.
The gas, the smell of the gasoline and all of that
Yeah.
affects the garden, has an
And so
impact
what
on ecosystem.
and so if that is one of your major products that you bring your cruise
You know,
visitors to see, you deteriorate in that product
exactly. So I mean, boy, Tony. Anyhow, and I guess when you
and
say that, people interpret that, oh, you're talking
as
about
being
this.
critical. Yeah.
But it's
And
not.
the other thing is that one of the things about the botanical gardens is the cricket grounds.
Yeah.
It There's something special. There used to be something special about the cricket grounds at the botanical gardens. Cricket is one of our games in Dominica that we identify with. The botanical gardens used to have these flamboyant trees, really nice sort of house where they change, and special matches took place at the botanical gardens.
Hmm.
You know, when I left Dominica, they were pitching tents in the botanical garden because that's where the Christmas village is going to be, on the cricket grounds at the botanical gardens. No, it sounds like you're criticizing, but again, you know, the point you're making is that we have to develop a culture where we think about what we're doing in a holistic kind of way. What is the type of country we want to have? What's the type of life we want to have? And therefore, the things that we choose to do and where we choose to do them should fit within that space.
Hmm. Hmm.
When you go on the bayfront, I will tell you, almost every day in Dominica, we had two big cruise ship vessels in port, one at Focole and one in Roseau. Big vessels. But when you come, these white tents that
Hmm.
look almost Arabic,
Hmm.
like they're from, with the
Hmm.
pointed top, and
Hmm. Hmm.
that's what you see on the bayfront, obscuring the view. Like if you're walking down Roseau towards the bayfront, you see the top of the ship and you don't see the ocean. What you see is this line of white tents, just pure white tents. The vendors have to make a living,
Right.
right? But again, it can be done better. It can be done to fit within the whole ambience of the nature island,
Hmm.
cultural or Kalinago people, you know.
Hmm.
It if the tents are white, paint them some colors. I don't know, something.
Right. Right. Right.
I'm not the smartest person, so I don't have what is the alternative, but I just know that what is being presented
Hmm.
doesn't provide anything Dominican.
Hmm.
Because you can go St. Martin and see those same tents. You can go, I mean, anywhere, and not on a cruise ship. Probably wouldn't see it
What
coming off a cruise ship.
you always have to ask the question: what differentiates you?
What
What
differentiates you?
differentiates you from the other for your competitors? You know, what
Yeah,
makes it
yeah.
different? So that when the tourist arrives there, you say, wow, you know?
And they remember Dominica. They don't remember, what is that place we go again? And we bought this T-shirt. They can't remember because the same T-shirt they buy, they
I
could
know.
buy it somewhere else. So just that one says Dominica and one says St. Martin.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and so the idea, Alvin, that we're talking about, as we probably have to start to wrap up, is that we have to get into our culture the idea of thinking. As you said, when we go to other people's country, we are leaders, we are thought leaders, we
Mm-hmm.
are managers,
Mm-hmm.
and our country is very lackluster for want of creativity and for want of,
Mm-hmm.
we so how do we get that again? What you said was, we used to have debates, we used to have panel discussions, we used to have poetry competitions, we used to have things that would encourage people, um, and our kids. We used to make kite and fly kite, we used to drive sec, we used to drive truck, we used to, so we were encouraged to be creative. We make catapult, we make top. That is, it says, not by accident that when Dominicans leave Dominica, that generation of leave Dominica, they find themselves in positions of leadership, because our life trained us to think and to be creative. And so we have to see how that can be maintained.
Mm-hmm.
Not just another, where you have a tablet and you go for Facebook and we see during COVID how creative our people were. So many people came up with businesses.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. A
you
lot
know
of folks, a lot of
and
folks.
so in 2025, maybe that's what we have to think of.
Yeah,
How can we get our people to be to
yeah.
feel it, to be in that space where they can be creative.
And I think one area which we didn't really touch on it, but it's an area we have to take a closer look in the new year is our young people.
Yeah.
How do we and we talk about that aspiration and all of that because um, those of us that are in our senior years are in our senior years. We may still be there for a little while. We still need to provide some guidance and share the wisdom and knowledge that we have. But whatever needs to be done is going to fall on the shoulders of our young people, the young men, the young women, which you say see no future and say, boy, the first boat or first plane I get, I go into America, or I go into
Hmm.
Canada.
Hmm.
And like you say, when they get there, they do well, they excel. So how do we get our young folks to be more engaged, to be more involved, I mean, what is it we have to do? That may be $1 million question. And quite honestly, I do not have an answer for you tonight as we speak. But what I will say is that, and you know that as a matter of fact, during our young times, and I'm not in any way suggesting that we should go back to what I was doing, because now it is just as much as um, encouraging and challenging and exciting. I mean, you have computer, you have AI, you have a whole host of things that young people now have an opportunity to. So while it's true, they may not be able to make the kites that we did, but they can sit there and craft and come up with something, an app or something, you know? So how do we get our young men and women um, to be to take charge and take control too and create that. And it might mean, again, it goes back to what we were saying earlier of having data and information. So we
Hmm.
may have to go back into the schools and look at some of the school curriculum and look at some of the issues and maybe do a lot more listening than talking. Hear from them. What is it that spurs you on? Tell me what makes you, if you say you want to go, why do you want to go?
Hmm.
You know? So I think we have to find some creative way, those of us who are engaged in that sort of um, stuff that we're doing here on TDN, to engage with more young people and hear from them and see how they can be. Because at the end of the day, um, they're the ones that are going to have to do the work and take the brunt, while you and I, gradually give that space and allow that space for them.
Right.
It's people like
And,
Greg, your son and your daughter. They're the ones going to take over this thing.
exactly. And the only thing I would add to what you say is that while it may be difficult to get into the schools and impact the curriculum, we probably have to just create the space, create the organizations, invite them in, and let them learn what they have to learn in addition to what they learn in schools until we can get into the schools and impact the official curriculum. So the JCs, the 4-H clubs, the Scouts, Duke of Edinburgh Award Scheme, and so on. Whatever modern version of that, of those, we can get to entice, find out what they're interested in, and entice them to come in. Um, the Duke of Edinburgh Award Scheme is a good model because we used to do hiking, we used to have a skill, we used to do community service, and so on. Something model around that, whether you work towards a medal and you have to have so many hours of 4 different areas to achieve that medal, and then you have a nice celebratory and you build camaraderie and so on. So if we have to assume that the school curriculum might be too bureaucratic to get into in 2025, while we work on getting in there, we have to look at how we can connect and engage these young people outside of school, in addition to school. Maybe, like these Calypsonians had, you do a summer camp where they teach kids to write calypso. They bring them in and
Trilogy.
you teach them to write
Yeah.
calypso and so
Mm.
on. So those initiatives are already there. Is to identify them, partner with them, and insert a little bit with it to maybe really make it have a wider reach. There are things that we can do. There are things that we can
Oh
do.
yeah, absolutely.
And
And in addition to that, I mean, a lot of us sometimes are guilty of always making it, oh, young people are not engaged anymore. Young people are not like we used to be, like young people before. We're always quick to see what is it they're not doing, as against asking the question, well, why is it?
exactly.
If you say, well, young people are not as engaged, which may be a fact, the next question would be to ask the question, why?
Hmm.
Let's figure out the why. Can we find the why? And if we can identify the why, then what solution would we put in place for the why? But
Yeah.
clearly, it's an area that we have to look at.
Uh,
I mean, you were in Dominica. I'm sure you move around and saw a lot of these young men just wasting their lives around the block, not doing much, just hanging out, chilling, you know. And it always pains my heart when I see that kind of, you know.
but
Um,
but 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 I'm encouraged. You know why? Because even in that environment, we've had some achievements that seemed very far fetched when we were young.
mm,
Because when we were young, we could not imagine two Dominicans on the West Indies team at the same time.
right, right, right.
We could not imagine a young Dominican winning a gold medal at the Olympics. You and I was in JCs. It's not that we could not imagine a Dominican being the president of the West Indies JCs,
Mm,
but it was a tall hurdle
right.
to overcome.
This
We
is
just
true.
had we just had Dominica just had a president of the West Indies JCs. We have somebody on the board of JCI
Hmm.
for this time. Um, we see their achievements.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I
And
agree. I
so
agree with that.
and so it proves what we're saying, that if we can
They're
find a
resilient.
way.
We're resilient people. We're creative. We're resilient. And
Exactly.
once given the opportunity, we will shine. We will
We will
perform.
say
Once
exactly.
given the opportunity, we will shine. We will perform.
And so the answer is to
Right.
engage them in meaningful ways, and in ways that, as you say, listen. We listen to them and we engage them based on what we hear from them that they're interested in.
So that has to be one of the mantra moving forward for TDN in the new year. How do you
Definitely.
listen and engage young people?
Well, we started already. We have a program on Mondays from 8:30 with
Mm-hmm.
Kathy Robinson called the Youth Impact. Very,
Mm-hmm.
very powerful program, and she's bringing young people on, and they're talking to us, and she's very good at getting them to open up
Right,
and so
right.
so
What time is that
so
program
at
generally?
8:30 on a Monday night.
8:30.
Yeah, Eastern time on a Monday night. So if you haven't heard it, you should plan to tune in. She's very,
Okay.
very good at
I
having that
normally I
rapport with
normally
them.
listen on Monday night to my boys in the Munsewe. They have their program on a
They have
Monday.
their program at that time. But you can give Kathy a little bit of a listen.
Yeah, I will. I will.
Listen. Yeah.
And you know, while on that, I want to plug in a thumbs up to these guys because notwithstanding the environment in which they are and all the obstacles that they come up against, let me tell you, these guys, man, this past Monday I listened to them. Oh my God. You had a guy called Schumann Boston, I think the name is, I don't recall something like that. But these guys are deep. They
Yeah.
are deep in their conversation and how they analyze the issues
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
how
Mm-hmm.
they bring across. I mean, you have Flacco there, you have Buju, you have Pyro. I mean, these guys
Mm-hmm.
are deep, you
Yeah.
know. And again, what some of us do back home, they right away condemn the messenger, not listening to the message. So you know they have their mental block. Oh, this guy's whatever. But what does man? I'm telling you, those guys are they're phenomenal, man. I listen, but I listen to that program and just get
Mm-hmm.
a sense of
Mm-hmm.
it, you know. Mm,
And so yes, we have to do more of that in 2025. More engagement with the youth, more of creating a space where they can be creative and they can participate and they can achieve. That's one of the things that we have to do, and engage them in business.
mhm,
You know, engage them in business where they can see an opportunity to make a living from what they do and
mhm,
from what they're passionate about,
mhm.
and we will see results quickly too.
Absolutely. Mhm,
Yeah,
mhm,
just look at the achievements as we mentioned a few of them
mhm,
in Dominica, and they're excelling.
mhm.
In a time when there is so little
Yeah,
stimulation for them.
stimulation
So,
for them. Yeah.
yeah,
Mm.
so there has to be more. But Alvin, I'm going to ask you to. Is the holiday season, so feel free to send your glad tidings to your many fans
Well,
and to
well,
wrap up.
well. Yes, Tony. Again, it's always. I mean, it's always a pleasure. It's always fun coming on the program and sharing those ideas with you and bouncing ideas off each other and raising some of the issues that we believe needs to be raised and we do so in all sincerity. I mean, both you and I know how much we love Dominica. I mean, we are physical in the US, but our hearts and minds and spirit is in Dominica. I mean, I have that challenge every time with my kids. With them, but daddy, leave those people things, and I tell them, this is not the people thing. It's my thing. It's your thing. You know. Uh,
It's
daddy,
your
leave
thing,
that.
yeah.
So but seriously though, I really I really look forward to that conversation. I want to, in saying so, to extend the best wishes to TDN for the new year. I think you guys have been a phenomenal job for 2024. Yourself and Sam and all the folks behind the scene, the various programming and producers that produce those programs. I think that has been excellent, and I want to commend you guys. As we look forward to the new year and during the holiday season, I want to wish everyone a very Christ-like and enjoyable holiday season. I think that too is something that we maybe at some time will discuss. What really is, what should we be celebrating during this holiday season? Is it service to humanity or is it just good shopping and being the material aspect of it? And if you don't get a gift or you don't get a gift, then that is not Christmas. But I think as we will understand The quality time that you can share with a friend, just making a phone call. Hi, what's up? How you doing? With family and friends, sometimes means even much more than giving a gift. That in itself is a gift that has no, you can't place a value on. So I want to extend that to all our viewers who have stuck with us over the years and last year in particular. And let's aspire and hope for the best for 2025. Not sure how it's going to start and either how it's going to end, but it all will be based on what we put into it, the work that we put, what the goals that we set, and how we achieve those objectives. So again, thank you for having me, and look forward to doing a lot more exciting stuff in the new year.
All right. First of all, I want to say thank you. You always come, and when you come ready and full to share. And
16 cylinders.
yes,
Not
firing. And so I want to thank you for the support and the participation that you always give, and particularly in 2024, and to wish you continued strength and vigor. Dominicans familiar with that voice now, that powerful voice. So I wish you continued strength with that, and blessings to you and your family through the holidays and into the new year. I know you taking initiatives in your business with your boys, and I know that is something that you're proud of. Every father looks forward to be doing stuff with his sons and daughters, and so I wish you all the best. And of course, TDN is a friend, so feel free to come by and let the people know what your offerings are. The door is wide open, not just for you to come and talk to me, but come and promote your, because you provide a good service. You know, one
absolutely.
of the things I will tell people in terms of my trip was I brought down some of your glasses to your customers in Dominica, and they were very happy, very happy with the product.
I know
So if
you.
you have folks in Dominica who need glasses, and if you need glasses, contact Alvin.
That's what we do.
And you can contact him for us if you're trying to find him. But that's how they do. He specializes in providing top quality eyewear, both prescription and fashion. So
Absolutely.
if the eyes getting red because you're drinking too much for the crips, get a nice sunglasses, man. Put that on.
Absolutely.
Alvin can hook you up.
Yep. Thanks, son. Thank
but,
you.
but all the best, my brother, with that.
Thank you, man. Thank you. And to
Yeah,
my
and of
boys Cam in
course,
the background who is there keeping this thing going.
exactly. Yeah. And all the best to Sam and his family, and Ella and everybody else who assist us in keeping doing this week in interview and TDN in 2024. We're looking to grow from strength to strength in 2025. And of course, the Easter and the Sophie Drago and all those other sort of
The
folks,
regulars.
Martha, everybody else who show up regularly, Owen, Prosper. I don't want to start calling names, get the too many names to
I
call.
know. I know.
But I really appreciate, really appreciate you showing up every Wednesday and participating and listening. It means a lot. It means a whole lot. It keeps me motivated to continue to do it. So thank you for that, and I wish you and your family all the best for the coming year. For the folks from Dominica who hear us, let's see what we can do to get even better results for Dominica than we've been getting. Let us set our sights on our 50th anniversary and what we can do to have a banging celebration for a lot of things that we're proud of. I know our Grenadian supporters and St. Vincent supporters and Trinidadian supporters, thank you as well. Folks, stay safe for the holiday season, especially in Dominica. We have so many accidents and they're so serious. I drove in Dominica for 12 days, and they have these big trucks taking cement from the port and taking them up to Wesley, man. Yeah,
River.
our people are exposed to so much risk. So much reach just going about their everyday business. And so I wish you safety during your holiday season. Cut back on the drink if you have to. Drive slower if you have to. Um, Alvin D says that they're still waiting for their eyeglasses from you, but we'll talk about that. I think at
Tell
responding.
the tell
I don't know if it's me that dropped the ball or somebody
tell the
dropped the ball.
connect. Give the number, man. Do you know how to
Yeah,
reach?
so she can connect.
You know how to reach?
Definitely,
Yeah, yeah.
definitely, I will. But be careful, folks. I hate to see every time there's a celebration, every time there's a weekend, the another motor vehicle accident, another death, another serious injury. Let's see if we can turn that around. And for 2025, I wish everybody all the best. And all of my guests who showed up um, in 2024 and brought their best and brought their information to this week in interview. Thank you so much. I'm closing 2024 with gratitude, and I am opening 2025 with much aspiration. Thank you so much, everyone.
Okay.
Alvin, as always, love you, brother, and
Love you
wish you
too,
all the
bro. Love
best.
you too.
All right.
All the best. Take care. All right. Bye
So,
bye.
listeners, here we have it. Now our final episode for 2024. Uh, just hold tight, guys. Let's see what we can do in 2025. Let us set our sights high. Let us challenge ourselves to achieve. And I'm sure we will accomplish it, because if we can conceive it and believe in our ability to achieve it, we definitely are going to attain those heights. So, again, to the staff of TDN and the supporters of TDN, good night, everyone. I don't want to start calling names because I will forget two, three people and I'm going to get flack. So, you know yourself, our biggest and staunchest supporters. Good night, everyone. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and all the best of health and strength and wealth for 2025. Good night.